Hello everybody, this is Jeremy Mateo with In The DAW. Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the P&M or plugin mix virtual amp plugins that come inside of the VIP bundle. So with that said, let's just jump in and take a look. So like I said earlier, we're really going to be focusing on the amp simulators inside of the VIP bundle. And this session is pretty cool because I'm utilizing 6 of them. And before we get started on talking about the plugins themselves, let me show you what they sound like. I'm going to highlight every single track and bypass the amp simulators. And you're going to be able to hear all the processing only without the amps. So let's just take a listen to the way that this mix sounds like without any amp simulators whatsoever. Here we go. Pretty cool, right? You can hear it's a good song, but it sounds a little thin because these are all DIs. So if we turn on all of the amps, that is a huge difference. That is a night and day difference. So I'm going to play this back for you one more time, and I'm going to bypass all the amps and turn them on so you can hear the huge difference that we get in here. I have everything gain matched as closely as possible, but we have a huge difference in sound. Everything sounds thicker, sounds warmer, it has more width. And that's actually just because these things sound really good for a funky jazz style song. So now let's go over the different types of amps that we have in this session. For the bass, I have the bass peg. It's basically a Ampeg style amplifier. You have an input and output knob on top. You have a deep switch, a drive knob for some saturation, a bright switch to add a little bit of high end, your tone stack right here, bass, mid-range, and treble, and then you have the ability to either bypass the cabinet or have it set to a dynamic or condenser microphone. This is a really, really nice and clean sounding bass amplifier, but if you crank the drive up all the way, you can get some nice saturation. Let's see what this sounds like without any processing. And turn it on. Let's try cranking the drive. And let's try the deep knob. Pretty simple, right? It sounds good. And that's honestly all I really want from a bass amplifier. I just want it to sound good. Moving on to the next amplifier, you're going to see that we have a British Tone, which is essentially a Marshall style amp. It has the same controls with slight differences. The layout is pretty much exactly the same, but instead of having a deep and bright switch, we now have stereo and boost. This is where all the guitar amplifiers are going to vary from the bass amplifier. All of the guitar amplifiers are going to have the ability to become stereo or mono and have a gain boost, which will have a lot more saturation. You'll also notice that instead of having the condenser and dynamic microphone, you can now turn it off, have it off axis or on axis. And this is basically rotating the positioning of the microphone. Let's take a listen to this track without the amplifier. And let's turn it on. It has a very interesting scooped, saturated sound, which is pretty reminiscent to a lot of old school Marshalls. Moving on to the next one where we have the Magic Queen. This is a Vox amp, I believe. And this one will have a much more different sound. Let's bypass it. And turn it on. You'll notice that this has a much more mellow sound and it isn't as aggressive. In fact, it's a lot cleaner and it's something that I like to use to help thicken up a sound. Moving on from that, we now have the piano, and this is using something a little bit different. This is the tone stack. This is essentially every single amplifier that you have in the bundle put into one plugin. You're going to have a little bit less controls, but you are going to have a lot more flexibility in tone variations. Instead of having an input knob, you now have a drive knob, which is your saturation. And instead of having a big old drive knob right here, you now have the ability to switch between different amp models. You have the Bassman, Twin Verb, Prince Tone, Off, JCM 800, 2000 lead, and AC30. This one also has a contour knob and a cabinet on and off, and then you have your tone stack at the bottom. Let's take a listen to this on the piano with it bypassed, and now back on. You'll notice that I'm just having this add some saturation and grit. It's pretty simple, and that's what I like about it. It just works. Moving on to the guitar held chords, we have the American Tweed. This is a really, really cool sounding amp. I love this because it sounds so transparent and clean. Let's take a listen to it with it off. So you can hear that this is a very dark sounding guitar. Let's turn on the American Tweed. It's still dark, but it has a little bit more detail in it now. Now what I want to do is try switching the off and on axis so you can hear the difference. Much cleaner and much warmer. And that's it for this one. It's just very simple and clean. And then lastly, I have the guitar pluck, which is really cool because I basically recorded it through all these pedals to get this interesting sound. And for this one, we are using the California Tone, which is a Mesa Boogie, I believe. This is honestly one of my favorite sounding amps. Let's take a listen to it without the plugins. And with it on. We have a little bit more saturation, we have a thicker sound, and it has a little bit more high end. And with all of that combined, you get a much fuller sound. So we're going to bypass all the plugins once again and listen to this mix. And we turn them all on. And that's it. Very simple plugins that are very easy to use. And personally, I think they sound really nice. With that said, that's going to be it for this portion of the video. I will see you guys in a few seconds. All right, you guys, so that is a few of the P&M VIP Bundle amp simulation plugins. These are actually really cool, really powerful tools, and I really like how flexible they are, even though they're all built to be as simple as possible. And with all that said, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is Jeremy Mateo with In The DAW, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.